Oh, the 90s. Bombastic superhero books, over the top action, screamingly loud exaggeration in comic book form, and then there's indie books. Hi, everybody. I'm Taylor. Welcome back to my channel, and this is my greatest review on Earth. No, probably not. Smartest review on Earth? Nope. Most okayest review on Earth? Yeah, let's go with that. Review of Jimmy Corrigan, The Smartest Kid on Earth by Chris Ware. Yeah, this is a beast of a volume. It's actually a fairly quick read. I read this probably close to when it first came out, like 10-ish years ago. I think and I had to really refresh my memory. Didn't recall all of it. And when I said first came out, I mean first came out in collected form. My original collected volume of this was damaged. I just picked this up last weekend at Half Price Books, and I am keeping it, and I'm not giving it away, so screw you, Internet. You just have to watch this video. You're not going to win anything. Although, I'm going to announce the winner from last week's video at the end of this one, so, watch along. You might have won. So Jimmy Corrigan, Smartest Kid on Earth, by Chris Ware. Oh boy. What to say about this one? It's intense. It's intricately and yet sparsely illustrated at the same time, if that makes any kind of sense. Heavily detailed architecture-wise. The characters are very simplistic, drawn in minimal lines, and tiny panels. And sometimes there's arrows given to guide your way around the page, and that is sometimes needed because otherwise you're like, why, how, what's going on? The story is told. It's like focusing on a lot of the minutia of life and lots of dinners, lots of eating, but more so, with these tight yet sparse and kind of cold, flat illustrations. Chris Ware tells a pretty rich, multi-layered, intricate, and yet simple story of abandoned fatherhood, I guess, and interweaves that with like the previous generation, like a grandfather of Jimmy Corrigan, James Corrigan, who apparently lived at the time of the World's Fair in 1893 in Chicago. So the story itself, there's not a lot to it. I mean, I could, with a little bit of mild spoilers, I will sum it up fairly as quickly as I can. Jimmy goes to meet his estranged father, and the events that transpire therein are the contents of this book. And there's not a lot of events that really actually transpire. It is a lot of eating out and a lot of moments between the father and the son, and like Jimmy's meeting his father for the first time in this, and there's sort of like this casual, clueless pain, and that the father has managed to inflict on Jimmy. And Jimmy's a very passive character in this. He's sort of lets the world happen to him. Like the father sends him a plane ticket, and so he goes to visit. But then his mother, who's in a nursing home, keeps repeatedly calling and bugging Jimmy to visit, and Jimmy just keeps putting it off because he's visiting his father, but doesn't want to tell his mother that. And Jimmy's a helpless, hapless, sad character. He's scared to date. He's scared to interact with humanity much at all. Very passive, very mild, very stuttering. Not that stuttering is implicit of any of those things, but he writes his character with a bit of a stutter and verbal tics and pauses, and the way he illustrates is also, it's like there's a lot of little moments that get played out in time. Like Chris Ware really uses the panel to expand out time slowly, and the passage of time, and like the passage of lonely time and solitary time and inactivity. It's a very inactive graphic novel, actually, and the major themes probably are like abandonment and loss and loneliness, comprised with the amount of cruelty that family members can inflict on other family members, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, and just sort of the fact that like when you know someone and when you interact with them every day, that your minor events can really be taken one way by one character is very minor, and the other is a major character forming moment, or as a major like, yeah, I guess that's probably right. The character forming moments. This is a balancing act of like borderline boredom and cold and callousness and um, a story where again nothing much really happens, but it's also I found it really engrossing because you really get invested in this sad character of Jimmy, and you really want to know if there's a happy resolution, and you really want to know if there is any kind of like story resolution to this. I don't want to spoil that for you, so I would recommend reading this. I recommend reading everything, but this is definitely it's a very '90s indie book. Nowadays, indie books tend to be mainstream books under different publishers, like superhero-y, bombastic, over the top. The '90s, there were a lot of these character study kind of books, and a lot, Chris Ware is a Chicago artist, and there was a couple other Chicago artists like Dan Clowes that also had these like small character study kind of things at this time. And I would, if this were drawn now, I would say it was probably computer drawn, but I'm guessing in the '90s it was all hand drawn and just kind of very flatly inked and very flatly colored. Chris does, and lettered. Chris does all of this, I believe. And my one complaint, other than it's a little hard to follow sometimes with the arrow, even with the arrows, is it's the size of this. The type is sometimes hard to read, especially in the cursive font. It can really be a bit of a struggle. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort and delve on into this, I think you'll really get something out of it. Like I said, it's painful to read. But I think like any book that can make you feel pain or make you empathize or make any book that'll make you feel anything, I think is good. Like, and this kind of, it does sort of force you to, I think, to reflect on your own family issues and your own way you treat other human beings. And if there's a lesson learned, it really is to be a little bit more kind or consciously kind, and not to let unconscious cruelties and unconscious bias affect your relations with your family, and because it'll happen throughout the generations. Like the James Corrigan turn of the century stuff is like James's father treats him pretty cruelly and doesn't really want James around, and that like forms James's personality and his interaction with his classmates and other folks, and then that you can sort of see that trickle down to the James III or Jimmy or whatever, the Jimmy's father, and how he doesn't interact or sort of interacts with Jimmy when he first meets. There's a lot of Jimmys in the book, so it gets a little confusing. None of them are actually the smartest kid on Earth, unless it's a very small Earth. And then just one other thing. The architectural drawings, these are fantastic. And like, it feels like a very graphic designer ebook. Like the books the illustrations look like it could be design illustrations. And Chicago itself becomes a bit of a character in this, especially in the turn of the century World's Fair kind of stuff. So I highly recommend it. It's not going to be for everybody. If you're looking for like an over the top romp, it's not that. This is just a small, soulful, but dense exploration of a character. And the back sort of gets into the why Chris Ware wrote it and stuff, and it started off as a weekly strip for an indie Chicago newspaper, and I imagine it'd probably be pretty hard to read in there too with the cursive, because the ink spread and stuff with some of this type would be really pretty tricky unless it was full page stuff and they really shrank it down for this. But I kind of don't think so, because I've seen individual issues of some of his Acme Novelty Library and some of his other stuff, and they're all various sizes, but they're all pretty small little drawings and stuff. So again, this one's an interesting one. I really did like it, with the reservation that it's sometimes a struggle to read. So have at it. Pick it up. I found it for $10 at the used bookstore. I don't think it's still in print. It might be, but you can find it around. So I'd say give it a whirl. It might be in hardcover too. Hardcover might be worth it, because like it's a well designed, and you can sort of tell Chris Ware just really appreciates design and stuff. So if you find a hardcover, pick it up. That's about all I've got. I know it's a quick little one and fairly positive, which people seem to like when I rag on books a little bit more, but I actually enjoy reading, and I like to read books I like reading. So there's that. The reason I'm not giving it away is I want to revisit it every couple of years, I think. And I think this is one where I will pull it off the shelf and take a look at it, just because like it's beautiful. It's cold and callous and everything, like I said, but it is beautiful. So The winner of last week's giveaway is Las Cruces, because it's rigged. Actually, not really. Las Cruces comments on all of my videos. He watches all of them. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Hit me up on IG, and I will get the Camelot 3000 out to you. So that's about it. Have a good rest of your day, folks, and don't be a dick, especially to your fellow family members. Or not fellow. English is hard, folks. Just don't be a dick to anybody, including your family. There you go. See ya.